Welcome back. We've had him on before. Time to get into it a little bit. NBA senior writer for The Athletic, Sam Amick, is here. What's up, Sam? Welcome back.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Look, we were just saying in the break, like for 24 hours at least, and I know because the world is actually happening around us, but the Jimmy Butler news has been a little bit quiet. We just haven't really had to talk about him all that much. It's still going on, and it's obviously major, and he wants out of Miami, and now we've got a couple teams that he said, I know I don't want to play for them as well. Is this a Phoenix or bust situation for Jimmy Butler?
For Jimmy, it is. I actually wrote about it this morning, and the fact that I was with the Heat the last couple days. They came through Sacramento and San Francisco, got a pulse on the situation, and really kind of learned that I think certainly for Jimmy, it's Phoenix or bust in terms of what he wants, the chance to compete with that group and to get the extension on the back end. The Heat obviously are going to think about the Heat, and that's where this thing, like always, we only know what we know right now, but this thing I think could extend out quite a bit because it's clear that they don't like the early conversations that are happening between them and other teams as far as what's on the table. They're preaching patience. They're making it really clear, even to their players. And Lou, you've kind of lived this. When you have trade situations happening, the team is going to give internal messaging. And what I was told is that the Heat players have been told, like, hey, get ready for Jimmy to be back in your space because that's likely what's going to happen. So to me, we got about a month until the deadline, and it's going to take a minute.
They're holding space.
I said it. We will see Jimmy Butler back in the Miami Heat uniform. It's
so awkward,
too much
though.
of a gap of time. Unless you're going to send him home indefinitely, he's going to be back in uniform until this deadline.
Well, what I think is funny, too, Sam, is that initially this was he just wants to play anywhere but Miami. And now there are reports coming out, and specifically Memphis and Milwaukee catching strays in this one because apparently those are the teams don't want to go there. Is that true? Is that valid?
Memphis, again, what I've been told is Memphis for sure was told that Jimmy does not want to go there. The Milwaukee thing, admittedly, I'm a little confused by because it's been confirmed in a couple of spots. I was told from somebody who 100% would and should know that Jimmy's camp had not, kind of spoke on Milwaukee and also had been asked about Milwaukee. Now, there is chatter about the Bucks and the idea of them kicking it around. I would probably, regardless of exactly what was said, I would move off that possibility. I don't sense a lot of eagerness from even the Bucs side to go down that road. I think, like any good team, they're going to consider certain things, but yeah, the Memphis thing, Jimmy clearly is not feeling the Grizzlies experience and trying to push his way to the desert.
Poor Memphis,
Sam,
once again.
The guy that needs to be moved in order for Jimmy Butler to find himself in Phoenix is going to be Bradley Beal. This week he was moved to the bench. Have things gone sour out in Phoenix for Bradley Beal and the Suns?
It feels like it. It's funny, guys. As I was waiting to jump on with y'all, Lou, I was thinking about you and your six-man experience, and it must be so interesting for you to see some of the developments in the past couple of weeks when you have Brad getting moved to the bench, Chris Middleton going to the bench, and the way guys react to this. So, Brad gets moved to the six-man role, has a good debut, plays well in that first game, is handling things like a pro, and that's to his credit. But, yeah, I do think clearly things are sour in terms of, Brad's a smart guy. He knows that that idea that they all had about him being part of a championship contender in Phoenix is just not there right now. And he takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's got that no-trade clause, said the other day that he holds all the cards. I wrote in my column today, this just fascinates me so much because I'm a sucker for all the interpersonal dynamics. And I've never seen something like this where you have Mark Bartelstein, the longtime agent of Brad Beal, and a guy who was extremely close with Brad. Like, Brad is one of his top guys. And then, oh, by the way, the CEO of the Phoenix Suns is Josh Bartelstein, a guy that is front and center in this situation. So I can only imagine what those conversations are like right now when you got the Sun kind of telling Pops, hey, we really could use your help here, finding a solution. But, yeah, I think, Brad's going to wait it out. He knows he's got a lot of bread on that contract for the next 2 years. And even though he's got some ball left in him, the market is not robust for bringing him on board, obviously.
Yeah, that was my next question to you. Do you think there's a scenario in which he would waive his no-trade clause to be part of the Miami Heat organization?
I do. I think it's probably out there. You hear a few things early on that I think we got to wait and see how it develops. But it goes back to the whole timeline thing. Is I tried to write this today. Like, if you are Team X that is looking at Brad and saying, listen, we need some help, and he could be that guy, but, it's January 8th, it's January 9th, and we have 4 or 5 other players on our list of trade targets above Brad, then the Heat and Jimmy Butler by proxy are going to just have to be patient and wait, because that market is slim to begin with. And it's certainly slim when, again, teams are going to go through kind of the Rolodex of who else might work better for their team, who isn't owed $110 million over the next 2 years.
Right, because, Brad was in a unique situation where when he was dealing with his contract issues and he was able to get a no-trade clause. Do you see a situation where he may be the last player to get a no-trade clause in their contract moving forward?
No way.
I do, and certainly, to Brad's credit, it's like, man, when he got that, we'd probably say that he was a top 40 player. You know what I mean? Like, it's a hell of a thing to get a no-trade clause when you're in kind of that part of the hierarchy. Then fast forward to last summer, as you guys know, like Paul George pushed hard for the no-trade clause, and he kind of wanted some of that and couldn't get that thing done. So I don't see teams doing it in this NBA with the way the CBA is constructed. It's already so restrictive. I think teams are going to get incredibly stubborn about giving extra kind of aspects to a contract that make it even harder to move a guy.
What's funny, Sam, is we were trying to figure out if it was going to happen again, because it is a crazy clause to have, and bless you if you can have that in any of your contracts. But we thought maybe Wemby, only because the San Antonio part of it, and like it felt like that would be possible, perhaps.
Yeah, I could see that. I was listening to the All-Star commentary, right, and it's like he just turned 21. The idea of the 13 All-Star appearances over under, I was playing the game along with you and going, yeah, I think it's over. So, that could be the guy. But that's a franchise that, at least for now, can't even envision itself wanting to ever part ways with this guy.
Right.
And so I think I agree. Like, if ever there was a guy, he might be it.
Straight up honeymoon phase. Love you forever is what's happening right now.
I
love that. You reported that the Warriors not in pursuit of Jimmy Butler. And A, why not? And B, are they going to make any kind of a major move by the trade deadline?
So to the A part of the question, it's so funny because that is for sure the intel. There's, they don't have interest in giving him the deal that he's waiting for on the other end. And I don't think they're looking to make him a rental and have it be, a strained relationship with him coming to town if they somehow were able to get him, in spite of the fact that they don't want to do a max extension. That being said, it is just so, again, we have a month to go, right? So the other night when I'm in San Francisco and they get walloped by Miami, after the game, there's a place called the Bridge Club near the arena floor at Chase Center. And the owner, Joe Lacob, and GM Mike Dunleavy often meet there. Back when Bob Myers ran the team, that's where they would meet as well. And it sounds like it got a little spicy down there, just as far as, the post-loss unpacking of what had happened on the floor. And you felt, some people who walked by and even engaged with Joe and Mike could really feel the frustration from the group. And that makes a lot of sense. They just got beat really badly. So then what happens is, whether it's Jimmy Butler or anybody else, there's going to be a constant recalculation happening for teams like the Warriors and just what do we need to do? Because it's one thing to not feel like you're a contender. It's another to go out and just get destroyed by a Heat team that didn't have Jimmy Butler. Their reasoning for not going after Jimmy, even beyond the money, is that to this point, they've been pretty happy with Andrew Wiggins' play. And the idea of also giving up a Jonathan Kuminga in that deal, even though he's hurt right now, is something they weren't looking to do. The prospect of Wiggins and Kuminga going out and Butler coming in, they didn't like kind of how that looked for them.
Yeah. What's the level of concern about Steph Curry's knee? Like, where's that play into all this?
It's a managed situation. I think that even beyond the knee, you've seen a little bit of a leveling off of Steph this year. It's crazy to say this. I don't know if you guys talked. Steph's got so many All-Star appearances already, but, we could be looking at the idea that he's going to maybe have a hard time getting on that All-Star roster, even though the game is in San Francisco. this time around. So between the knee and his play and the lack of help, I think it's managing the physical side and paying attention to the mental and the spiritual, if you will, because we saw how frustrated he was the other night. He showed quite a bit of it on the court.
That's kind of they should grandfather him in like when they do the U.S. soccer team because we host the cup.
Yeah,
like we're not good enough. But
sad to have an all-star game in that new arena down in the Bay Area and Steph Curry not be involved. That'd be sad.
I like it.
To think about, but when we did it the other night in the press room. Like when you start really looking at the voter, the first tally of results and start thinking about who else is in the running. The league's pretty loaded at the guard spot, and he's going to have to play well.
Sam, I'll stay out in Cali with you. The Kings look like they found something since the firing of Mike Brown, and they've really rallied around Doug Christie being their interim head coach. What's your read on the situation out in Sacramento right now?
Yeah, I mean, to their credit, they've played better. That Beam, I'm a little guilty of. I was at the game recently, the first one that they won after the Mike Brown firing, and might have made a crack about how I was just happy to see the Beam still worked because it had been a minute. And so they're playing better, and I'm going to be, I don't know. I'm a little too close to it. Like, I'm going to be Debbie Downer here a little bit. Like, I'll start positive. Doug Christie has injected some positivity into the group, and they've played really well down the stretch, which is something that was an issue, early on this season, and one of the reasons that Mike was in trouble. That being said, the first game with Doug, they lose to a Lakers team that didn't have LeBron James. They beat a Dallas team that didn't have Kyrie, Luka, or Clay, also didn't play. They played Philly without Joel Embiid. They played Miami without Jimmy. They've had this kind of incredible run of, getting teams without their stars. But a win is a win in the league. 5-1 is exactly what they were hoping for when they made the coaching change. Still plenty to unpack. I've seen some of your guys' coverage and commentary on the Fox situation with De'Aaron. But it's winning does cure, if not all, a lot, and the mood certainly has turned for the better in Sac.
Sam, love it. So much information. We appreciate the time. No Steph at All-Star. We can't have that happen.
Can't have it.
We'll talk soon. We'll be back.
Appreciate you.
Run it up.